Oh, hello. So I just continued my continuous series vlog. I just made another update for that one. But I want to start another vlog. So I might be reading a whole bunch of stuff out of order this summer. So my vlogs might actually be jumping around at various different points in the summer, and that's totally okay. So I'm starting another vlog while I'm still in the midst of filming stuff for my continuous series vlog, because I've read some fantasies recently, and that was one of the cards that I picked from my latest TBR video. I'll link that below in case you're curious. So I've started reading, I've been in a fantasy mood, and so I started to read some fantasies. And so I just want to start this vlog instead, and I will eventually read another book for the continuous series vlog whenever I feel like it, and I'll just post them in whatever order they're ready to be posted. And you know, it is what it is. But this is going to be the start of the fantasy reading vlog. So hi, Emily here. What's up? How you doing? So for this one, I originally started to read a couple of different things. So after I read Project Hail Mary, I continued some series and then got distracted by this, and I attempted to go back to continuing a series and reading The Apple Escape, but I explained in that other vlog that that's not going to be what I read next. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. And I then was in the mood for a couple of different things. So I realized I was in the mood for a couple of different things. One, I was in the mood for a fairy loot, so I started to read The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. I'm actually done with this one. I'll talk about this in just a minute. And I also on audio started Jane Unlimited by Kristin Cashore. And I originally was just going to include Jane Unlimited by Kristin Cashore in this vlog. I thought it was more fantasy than it actually is, but it actually just feels very contemporary with a speculative element, so it really doesn't feel fantasy to me. But I have read Kristin Cashore's Graceling series, and I knew that Jane Unlimited would be very different from her Graceling Realm series, but I absolutely loved her Graceling Realm series, and I thought, based on the synopsis, I still thought this one, Jane Unlimited, would feel more fantasy than it actually does. And so I was like, can I actually include this in the fantasy vlog if it really doesn't feel very fantasy at all to me? And I had wanted to include this in a vlog because it's also my 5-star predictions for backlog. So I'll link that video as well because it was on that list, and so I was like, well, maybe I can vlog my experience reading it. But I don't necessarily want to include it in this vlog. I'm almost done with it. It's not what I hoped for, or I'm not enjoying it as much as I hoped for. I think I just wasn't really sure what I was getting into with this one, and it's not the book, it's me. But I will talk about that in a wrap-up of that 5-star video. I didn't promise that I would vlog my experience reading all of the books in my 5-star predictions lists, so I'll just talk about it in a wrap-up there. And I was like, well, The Prison Healer is definitely fantasy, so I'll just include this and talk about this in a fantasy vlog and then continue on from there. So this, as I mentioned, is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This is the gorgeous artwork on the back of the Dust Jacket of the Fairy Loot edition. This follows Kiva. Kiva is the healer at a prison, and she's actually an inmate at this prison as well. So she is imprisoned and serves the function as the prison's main medic or healer. And you know, she's doing the best she can. She learned healing from her father, who was also an inmate at this prison. She's been in this prison for 10 years along with her father, who passed away while in this prison, so she took over being the healer eventually. And so there's a lot of backstory here. You know, you kind of get to know a little bit about her father and what happened surrounding her father's imprisonment and the murder of her brother by some forces that work for the royalty in this world. And so, you know, he was imprisoned for potentially treasonous acts against the royalty or against the crown. And so, you know, they're in this prison. He has passed away before the start of the story. She is healing. She heals people. And so, you know, one day some people come into the infirmary, and, you know, there's something weird about this situation, but she, you know, starts to work on healing someone who's come into the prison, and he then is starting to work in some of the tunnels that are under this prison. And, you know, she's starting to question, you know, what's going on with this guy, what's happening. There's also a guard that's a huge part of this story, that is one of the guards that, you know, observes or works near the infirmary pretty frequently. And then on a different day, the rebel queen is actually brought into the prison as an inmate, but she is very sick, and so she comes to the infirmary under Kiva's care, and the rebel queen has been sentenced to what's called a trial by ordeal, and they're put through 4 basically impossible tasks that you're very likely to die from. And if you survive all 4 tasks, then you are found innocent of your crimes and you are set free. But the rebel queen is too sick to actually undergo these trials. And Kiva has been given a secret note by her family to do whatever she can to keep this rebel queen alive. And, you know, keep her alive, we're coming. She gets a note that says that. And so she thinks and hopes that her family is going to be able to come, and, you know, she's hoping to be able, for additional reasons, she's hoping to be able to keep this rebel queen alive. So she ends up taking on the rebel queen's sentence, essentially, at this trial by ordeal. And so she has basically elected to go through these trials on the rebel queen's behalf. And the rebel queen is basically the head of a group of rebels who believe that this rebel queen has claim to the throne of one of these kingdoms. And so anyway, so that's kind of the setup of this book, and I actually had a really fun time with this one overall. Honestly, it was pretty entertaining. There definitely were quite a few slow moments, but I honestly didn't mind the slow moments. I thought the world was relatively interesting. I don't read too many books set at a prison, let alone fantasy books set at a prison, so I think it was just an intriguing and unique setting and world. And so I enjoyed learning about this world. I say enjoyed. There's a lot of brutal stuff that happens in here. A lot of really brutal stuff. So I don't say enjoy as in, like, this is a super happy, light, fluffy fantasy. Like, no. But it was very interesting to get to know this world and get to know more about these characters, you get to know little bits about magic in this world. You get to know, I think this is going to be at least a duology. I know there's at least one more book in this series, and I am very intrigued to see what happens. Basically, you follow Kiva going through these ordeals, and you're learning little bits about the world as she is learning little bits about the world. There's also an outbreak that's also part of the context of the story. So there's an outbreak of a sickness that's going around, which is part of why she has been incredibly busy in the infirmary. She's trying to figure out what's going on and why so many people are getting sick, and try to figure out where it's coming from, how it's spreading, things like that. So she's trying to do that in the midst of going through these ordeals, and just a very intriguing character. And there's an interesting dynamic with the first main person who was brought into the infirmary under her care before the rebel queen. So, like, you know, I liked their dynamic. I liked her dynamic with this guard. There's also another character who helps her out in the infirmary who was pretty precious, and I really liked his character as well. And I just really enjoyed how protective Kiva was over a bunch of these characters, despite everything that has happened to her and is happening to her. You know, and there are some twists at the end, and you find out again more about who some of these characters are and what they can do in terms of magic. And I'm pretty intrigued to see what happens in the next one. So overall, had a super fun time with this one. And the next one I think I want to read for this fantasy vlog include, I need to return this to my brother. I've had this for way too long, so I need to return this to my brother. So I want to read Cursed, and this is illustrated by Frank Miller and written by Thomas Wheeler. So I want to start this before too long. That's not going to be my next book though, because I am being distracted and reading One Last Stop because I really am just being called. This one's calling me. I want to read this one. And so it won't be immediately. So a theme here with my vlogs is that they are going to be very out of order from how I'm actually reading these books, but that's okay. But I think my next one for this one will either be, well, physically, actually will probably be physically reading and listening to the audiobook because there's artwork throughout this, and so I want to be physically reading while I listen. And then I also am probably going to be reading The Sword of Kaigen for this vlog as well, but I don't know when I'm going to be reading that either. So I might be reading those two around the same time and wrap this vlog up around the same time of reading those two books, or I might space them out depending on when I feel like reading them. But yeah, that is it for this first check-in, and I will check back in once I have started another book for this vlog. Oh hey, here for a quick check-in for the fantasy vlog. I have finished Cursed by Thomas Wheeler, and this one wasn't a huge fan of, to be honest. So this one follows Nimue. Nimue is Feykind, and at the beginning she doesn't really fit into her village. She's kind of ostracized by her village. At the beginning there's a group called the Red Paladins that actually attack her village, and her mom in her dying breath gives her this sword and says, "Give this sword to Merlin." And that's all she says, and then she dies. And so Nimue needs to figure out how to get this sword to Merlin, what this sword is, what it means, and try to figure things out from there while a group called the Red Paladins, excuse me, there you go. And she's trying to figure this out while a group called the Red Paladins are attacking a bunch of different groups across this world. And she meets Arthur along the way, and they try to figure some things out. And ultimately, the character work was, I didn't feel particularly compelled by any of the characters. I thought the pacing was kind of all over the place. There definitely were some really interesting elements and some really interesting plot points, but I thought the pacing was just kind of all over the place, and I ultimately just wasn't super compelled to pick it up. It also did take me a while. I've been busy, which is also part of why it just took me a while to read it, but I also just wasn't super compelled to pick it up. The romantic elements I didn't particularly care about in this one. The writing is fine. It's actually pretty cinematic, which is why I'm actually interested in watching the Netflix show, because I do feel like this could be really cool in a show. It's very visual, and I feel like it could be a really cool show. And again, there's some interesting elements here. It just didn't all come together for me in a way that was compelling, that really drew me in. So that's unfortunate, but I might check out the show and see if I like the show. We'll see. I am also a good chunk of the way through The Sword of Kaigen by Emma Long. I am really enjoying this one. And this one, the writing is so good. It's not overly flowery, it's not overly descriptive or anything, but it's just a very nice, relatively simple, but really, really great writing style. I feel so connected to the characters. Misaki is amazing. I love Misaki. She's one of my favorite characters ever. And so this is a world where Misaki is married into a family. She doesn't really have much love for her husband. He's not really not really a great person. And she basically has married into a family and a society where her job is basically just to like have some boys, and that's what she's there to do. She's not really from a place where that is the only role women play. In fact, where she comes from, women can learn to fight and can be soldiers. And so she actually has a history of, like, she's learned to use a sword, she's learned how to fight. There are some magical abilities in this world that are super cool, kind of elemental magical abilities. And so you follow Misaki, you also follow her son, and her son is at this school learning different fighting techniques, learning the history of this empire, learning how to use some of his magical abilities, that kind of thing. And a newcomer comes to town and starts to make her son question some things about whether or not some things about what the Empire is saying are true, and he's starting to question the Empire a little bit, and brings some of these concerns to his mom, who also isn't entirely sure that the Empire has been entirely truthful about some things. She gets a letter from a family member that basically says, "You're in danger, get your family out." So in the area that she lives, it's called the Sword of Kaigen, hence the name of the book, and they're in the Kaiganese Empire. And the area that they live, part of the reason why everyone is very, very highly trained to fight, these are some of the most skilled fighters in the entire empire, live here and are trained here and keep their family lines in this area, is because it's kind of a key area to protect the rest of Kaigen from potential invaders. And so that's the area where they live. And Misaki, the mom, gets a letter from a family member that basically says, "Get your family out, you're in danger." And, she's trying to figure out what's going on. Her husband doesn't want to leave. He's like, "No, if we have to defend people, we need to stay here and fight." And, things kind of go from there. There is an attack on their village, and there are some mysterious things going on around that attack and the aftermath of that, when they're starting to ask some questions and not really getting the answers that they want. And it is super interesting. The politics, just the family dynamics here are super interesting. I'm very interested just in this larger world. I'm interested in the politics between these families, but also the politics of the empire and between other surrounding areas. You don't really know what to believe and who to trust in some cases, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, the character work is great. The magic is interesting. Just this world is super interesting, and I'm having a great time. So I will update once I actually finish the Sword of Kaigen and wrap up this vlog. But I will check in later. Oh, hey, how's it going? I realized it's been way too long, and I realized that I never actually finished out this vlog. So I wanted to wrap this vlog up, and I finished The Sword of Kaigen by Emma Wang. And I had already expressed very positive feelings in the last clip that I filmed, and those feelings just continued throughout the rest of the book. I absolutely loved this. I love the audiobook too. I thought the narrator did a good job. And the journey that Misaki goes on, that community goes on, that her family goes on, is just so emotional, so intense. I thought it was a really cool balance of very, very good character work with, things are also happening, and there's definitely a lot driving the plot forward. I thought there was a good balance there to really sink your teeth into the plot, but also really, really feel connected to all of these characters and to this community and to what's going on, and to really care about them. And yeah, I definitely got emotional. I didn't cry at this one, which I know some people have, and I can definitely understand why I didn't cry, but I did get very emotional, and I just thought it was extremely well done. I think there are a couple of other things in this world that this author has written, and I would be very intrigued to read those / read anything else that this author comes out with. I thought it was phenomenal. I was into it. I was into this world, and it took me a while to read, which wasn't the fault of the book. I was very much enjoying it. It just was, life has been busy, and it took me a while to read, but I think it says a lot about a book. Sometimes if it takes a while to read, it can feel like the book is going so slowly, even if it has nothing to do with the book. It's just that you've been reading it slowly, and so it feels like it's dragging on. That can happen sometimes, but I think it says a lot about this book that it took me a while to get through. Again, it's also a chunky book, so that's part of why it did, but it took me a while to get through, and I did not feel like it was dragging. I was into it every time I was reading it, which I think really says something. But anyway, thoroughly enjoyed. If you're looking for a standalone fantasy that incorporates some elemental magic, community, family, like some political intrigue as well, some combat scenes, and there's definitely portions of the book that are very heavy on some combat and some fighting, but I don't feel like it dominated the story even in those parts. Anyway, it's hard to explain, but I thoroughly enjoyed and would recommend. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap this vlog up here. This will be the next vlog that I post, and then the next one coming up, I am wrapping up and finishing up my continuing a series vlog, which is actually the first one I started, but will be the third one of the vlogs that I have planned based on my latest TBR, which I will again link below. It'll be the third one that I'm actually posting, but I will go ahead and get this one up and then work on that continuing a series vlog, and then I have a plan for a sci-fi vlog after that. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more bookish content. I will link my Twitter and Instagram down below. I haven't really been very active recently, but I do like connecting with people there. And yeah, I'll also link more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.